Hi, thank you all for your support in our Travelers board game. We are hard at work trying to make a dream come true. This game has two options for gameplay, the original version and the destination version. If this is your first time traveling with us, I suggest playing the original version to get an understanding of the gameplay. If you are here to learn about the rules, then you've come to the right place. Let's get started. When opening the box, you should find the following: a game board, one tour guide pawn, one traveler's scoring pad, 4 dice, 2 white and 2 colored, 25 original strategy cards, and 40 travelers, 10 blue, 10 red, 10 black, and 10 green. These are all of the pieces needed for the original version. You will also find extra pieces that are only needed to play the destination version: 4 passports, 7 destination tokens, 25 famous destination strategy cards, and 28 destination game cards. Great, we have everything. Now let's set up the board to start a game. To set up the board, shuffle the strategy cards and split them into 3 piles. Also, place the tour guide on the space labeled Start. Each player will pick a color and collect their 10 travelers. Next, each player will roll a die to see who will go first. The highest number wins. Players will travel around the board to collect points. You do that by positioning your travelers in the same column as the tour guide. Moving the tour guide is quite easy. You simply roll the dice and move the tour guide forward the corresponding spaces on the white dice. The tour guide will travel on the tan-filled circles and will travel counterclockwise around the board. There is a catch though. If at any time a 7 is rolled on the white dice, the tour guide will go back to start. If the tour guide is on the start, he will remain there. Also, each player will use the same tour guide in gameplay. The player rolling will still move their travelers for a turn that a 7 is rolled. Speaking of travelers, let's go over moving them. Travelers move on the 3 rows of point circles. Your goal is to line them up on the same column as the tour guide to collect points. If you look at this example, you can see that any traveler on the 15, 10, or 5-point space will earn points regardless of the person rolling. When moving your travelers, each column is counted as 1. You do not count moves up or down between the rows. You will also count the columns that are filled with travelers when moving. Now that we understand how to get points and how to move the pieces, let's start a game and do a few rolls. We will start by placing your travelers one at a time in a clockwise order until each player has 3 travelers on the board. You place these travelers on any space on the board with a point value in the circle. Once each player has 3 travelers on the board, it is time for the player going first to roll. In this example, the green player has rolled a 6 and will be going first. For the first roll, an 8 is rolled on the white dice and a 5 is rolled on the colored dice. The white dice controls the tour guide, so he will move 8 spaces. The total is 5 on the colored dice, so between all of the green travelers, the player will move 5 spaces. The green player decides to move 2 columns, 1, 2, and will receive 30 points, then finishes the move, 3, 4, and 5 with a second traveler. Next, the red player rolls a 6 on the white dice and 8 on the colored. Using this roll, the tour guide moves 6 and the red player decides to move a traveler 5 spaces to collect 25 points, a second traveler 1 space, with the hope that the tour guide will land on the strategy card space, and finishes the move, moving their last traveler 2 spaces, making a total of 8. For the third turn, the black player rolls a 12 with the white dice and a 4 on the colored. You can see the tour guide moves 12, and the black player moves a total of 4 with their travelers. Even though it is not the green player's turn, they will still collect 20 points, as they are in the same column as the tour guide. Let's take a look at keeping score. Scores are given at the end of each turn, and points are recorded on the score sheet to all players in the column, regardless of whose turn it is. For these 3 turns, the green player scored 30 points. Next, the red player scored 25 points, And finally, the green player again scored 20 points, bringing their total to 50 points. Cool, players are starting to get points. Now they can start adding travelers to the board. At the beginning of a player's turn, before a player rolls, they can exchange 25 points for one traveler. Once the 25 points are deducted from the score, the player can place the traveler on any open numbered space on the board. There are no limits to how many travelers a player can buy per turn, but they cannot exceed 10 travelers throughout the game. Remember the strategy card space that the red player moved to? Why did they do that? Well, at any time throughout the game, the tour guide could land on a space labeled SC. This stands for strategy card. When the tour guide lands on this space, a player will receive one card for each of their travelers on that space. Players do not receive a card if they do not have a traveler in the column. Also, if they have more than one traveler in the column, they do receive multiple cards. These cards are also played at the beginning of a player's turn before they roll, but they can only play one card per turn. Now, let's look at a second example. Follow along in your rulebook. For this example, it is the red player's turn. The red player rolls a 4 with the white dice and a 7 with the blue. Start by moving the tour guide 4 spaces. Next, the red player moves 7. As you can see, the blue player will receive 20 points and the red player 10. When scoring, it is possible for players to get double points. Look at the game board and find the blue section above the tour guide's travel path. Each section has a number. If either set of dice total that number when scoring, then the points are doubled. Look at the previous example. If an 8 would have been rolled and the players ended in the same position, the blue player would receive 40 points and the red player 20. No points would be given to the green player as they are not in the same column as the tour guide. It is also important to note that the corner space is included in the section. Whoever is the first to collect 300 points will be the winner of the game. So the more travelers you buy, well, you'll figure it out. Okay, so that's it. You now know how to play the original Travelers game. Once you have played and want more of a challenge, head on over to the destination version in the next video. You can also purchase the expansion to the game to add more players at travelersboardgame.com or any authorized retailer. Thank you so much and happy travels.